Yes, you do. Actually, when you start getting a significant amount of movement, you could see movement between the ridge board and the rafters as a result of the wall moving down.
And this cracked mortar joint,
these are some more indicators of foundation movement. And I think that we've shown here the last few slides that we've basically covered three factors that control or create 80% of all foundation movement on clay soil. Not watering properly, not giving proper maintenance, having bad drainage, and having trees too close to the house.
well, you know, the trees too close to the house, Tom. If I were that homeowner, I think, if I were going to buy this house, I think I'd yank those trees. Now, those are large trees.
And they should be pulled out. They're far too close to the foundation.
I mean, we're talking about a lot of money to remove those big of a tree, though. I mean,
It is
thousands
a
of
lot
dollars to do that.
It is. I mean, and you have to have a crane and everything. It's so close to the foundation. It's not just Paul Bunyan, cut it down and let it fall. You do have the proper cranes and everything.
So, if you did yank the trees, you'd have this huge gaping hole, 6-8 feet long, 4 feet deep. Boy, you really have to do something to cover that up, and you don't want the house to settle towards that hole, so what do you do to fill that hole in? How do you do that?
It needs to be properly compacted with a clay soil that'll hold the moisture in, and it will supply the bearing capacity back along that perimeter.
So you just don't throw sand in there.
The worst thing you could do, because then you create a bathtub.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yes.
So yanking those trees out and pulling that flower bed away from the house totally would probably be the best solution for the house.
That would be the best solution.
But long term, I mean, something else is settling underneath that house, I imagine, is that if you put enough piers around that house, would that work after you remove the trees in the flower bed? Is that going to solve the problem?
Well, it'll take care of the perimeter, and it'll keep it from going down. But a lot of times when you pull a tree out, you get a rebound effect because that moisture has been pulled out, and now you sever what's extracting moisture, and as it wicks back in, the foundation will go up.
My goodness. Well, we'll address that a little bit later on too, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the inside of the house and what the problems are inside after a check of today's weather. Be right back. Welcome back to your Real Estate Advisor on TXEN. I'm Chet Wilkie. Tom and Daryl are in studio with us. We're talking about home inspections of foreclosed properties. Let's go and look at some more pictures, this time inside the house, Daryl.
Okay.
Door frame, not squared. We see a lot of that, don't we, Daryl?
We certainly do, and I think it's important to show that we've showed the conditions that create foundation movement, and on the outside of the house we've showed the factors or what looks like foundation movement on the outside. On the inside, the weakest areas on the inside of the house are above doors and windows. And when you start moving differentially, you start to shift door frames and the doors start to stick. You start to get cracks above doors and windows, and that's what we're seeing here.
This is up in the ceiling area.
This is up in the ceiling. That's a massive crack.
My goodness.
Showing differential movement on that one corner of the house.
So that's caused maybe by the trees that are outside, huh?
The trees not watering properly and having bad drainage. This house has all three factors that create most of the movement that we see. There's some movement at the baseboard.
The molding is separating out.
That's right. Now, this house moved so much that it actually cracked the tile in a pattern.
Wow. And the slab underneath has got a long crack on it probably. We just saw the surface cracks on the tile.
These are some cracks upstairs, so not only do you affect the foundation below, you also affect the upstairs.
So when you have things like this occurring, after the foundation is stabilized, I mean, obviously you got to come back in. You got to do a lot of work inside the house.
You have a lot of cosmetic work.
I mean, you just can't just caulk this crack and paint it and it'll go away. It'll come back, won't it?
It potentially could come back.
What you really want to do in that situation is once you repair the outside and you so-called stabilize the house, you need to replace the sheetrock all the way across that crack.
Is that right?
Or it's very vulnerable to crack right back.
So what you do is you cut out a square portion and put it back in place and tape in bed and just do the whole thing all over again.
That is correct.
Okay, okay.
Talking a lot of added expenses here. Not only do you have to worry about bringing the foundation up, but you got all the cosmetic issues to deal with.
Well, you know, Tom, digressing a little bit from these pictures, repairing that foundation. If you had a guesstimate, is that a $50,000 repair job or a $5,000 repair job? What ballpark's that in?
I would think $10,000 worth because it's mostly at this one side, and you can put piers in and lift it up and restore the elevation, and and you're still not protected on the inside.
But once you take care of the piers,
Correct.
you got a couple $1,000s to remove the trees
Correct.
and the flower bed.
Right.
I mean, the dollars keep adding up, little
They
by
do.
little by little
They
by
do.
little. They just keep on going up. And we haven't been inside the house yet to repair the inside yet.
That is correct.
Yeah? Let's go back and see what other pictures you brought with us, Daryl. I guess.
We've covered most of the pictures.
Oh, have we? Okay,
Yes.
well, if we covered the pictures, let's talk a little bit more about what's happened behind the walls. Black mold's been a big issue. I've had a show about black mold.
Right.
Ugly pictures.
A couple of things we showed earlier was the flashing on the roof not being done properly. When you allow water to come into the house, here's an area below the washing machine connection where water has dripped at those bibs, and water's collected in that wall. And when you allow water to collect in a wall, you have the potential problem for mold, algae, all kinds of different kinds of growth.
Okay, but what's behind that wall, we don't know until we bust out the sheetrock.
That's right.
And then we see if there's anything growing behind the sheetrock.
That's correct.
But Tom, we know because of the way those flower beds were, and it was collecting water, there's probably some water penetration inside that house.
There almost has to be. I mean, there was nothing done to keep it out. And even if the weep holes had been plugged up, which they weren't, it still goes through the mortar. The mortar and the brick are porous.
That's right.
And when it comes to insurance, guys, who can handle this? I mean, the homeowner's going to have the brunt of it probably, but is the home warranty that's in effect or the homeowner's insurance policy that's in effect, would that handle some of these issues?
Maybe, but most of them are unsafe, unsanitary, or unlivable. And really the only one that you can rely on is unsafe, is your front or back door sticking where you can't get out in case of a fire. And then you have something that they would probably pay for the remediation.
Well, thank you very much. Those were very insightful. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Chet.
Daryl, Tom, thanks for joining us today. And when we come back, we're going to take a wrap it up with the email bag a little bit. Be right back. Welcome back. I bet you thought you saw it all before this show. Seeing is believing, and buying a foreclosed home may not be a bargain. Hopefully you'll inspect your deal very thoroughly before your option period expires, and definitely before you close and fund on your next home. For more information about this show, our guests, or any of our past shows, log on to txcn.com and click on Your Real Estate Advisor. Our site will be invaluable to you regarding real estate in Texas. And now you can search the MLS for homes, property, and commercial real estate right from our homepage. So log on, check it out, and don't forget to email us your questions. Next week, electric deregulation will be our focus. Texans will be saving millions of dollars, and their electric bill will be a lot less next year thanks to deregulation. One of our guests will be the Public Utilities Commission. We'll see what they have to say and which company will save you the most by charging less. We will surely be another insightful program of value to you. Now let's address some of your concerns and answer a letter from our email bag. We are thinking about buying a home for around $150,000. What's the best loan program? We don't have any money saved for a down payment. Is a lease purchase a good way to go? Do we need buyer's agent for that, or are we better off just waiting and renting for now? Well, I can tell you based on where you're located that you can certainly qualify for some kind of an FHA loan, which would be within the parameters of your $150,000 purchase. And probably 3-4% down is probably what you're going to need. Closing costs might be $2,000 or $3,000 more for that kind of a house. So that's the kind of money you're going to need, and I would definitely suggest you use a buyer's agent in this transaction. If you want to get involved in a lease purchase, probably even more so, because here's what you have. You have two different contracts. You have a lease agreement and you have a purchase contract. So you've got a couple of things going on there. And waiting, well, you could wait, or else you can just go ahead and do that lease purchase and maybe get some of the lease amount applied towards the purchase price in the way of a down payment when you do decide to close, maybe a year or two later on. Thanks for your email. And our thanks to Daryl Tinglove and Tom Witherspoon for sharing their expertise and advice with us today. And our many thanks to you and your calls. If we didn't get to yours, we'll try again next week. This is Chet Wilkie, your real estate advisor. Remember, I'm just a click away. Have a great day.